Hi.
Yeah, really. I thought it was a French thing.
Mhm.
There you-
Okay, Ben. Oh, you learned to do that?
you can't teach an old dog.
Thank you so much. Okay, with that, we'll open the budget session for today. So thank you all again for coming. So we're not doing individual budgets tonight. We're doing an overview. On Monday is scheduled highway and parks. But Nick was good enough so he emailed everybody the full budget and we have it in the books in front of us. So if we want to go over anything in particular, we can. But we had discussed the other day about going back because of the total numbers. So let's take a look at the total numbers. Ready? You want to put that up there? Mhm. So, okay, so this is this is the whole breakdown. So, okay, I'm moving over to Nancy because, okay, so, there we go. So I can see and follow along. Oh, well, I'll turn the other one off so it doesn't go crazy noise. Okay, so this is the basic overview. So this is the front page of any given budget and it shows the basics. So the tax levy is really what everybody is taxed. That's the dollar amount. So the taxes to be raised is that. Thank you for pointing. So that's 11.1 million, right? The revenue we actually do from a lot of different sources do obtain revenue. So there's $35.4 million in revenue expected. And this is based on the 4%, right? We work the numbers. Okay. And I'm sorry, the total revenues are 23.2. I apologize. And then the total is 35.4. Appropriations is 36,394,000. And that is our goal for the total tax levy. $1 million over the cap. So needless to say, we talked the other day about pulling back. So there's going to be a department head meeting tomorrow. Now, we took a different approach this year. Department heads have been absolutely fantastic. And they've been waiting for us to do our assessments, do their review. They submitted their original budget, which was very conservative and great, but obviously we still have more work to do. And so in doing that, the department heads are going to have a meeting tomorrow in which they're going to be asked to pull back again. And so we have to meet as close to the tax levy as possible. So given that, let's go through some other of the basics, which we haven't taken a look at, and we're going to go over the general numbers. So those different charts, can you pull up those different charts? Yeah.
You pointed out to me that these numbers are not including.
Here, take one of these, Max.
Yeah, go for it.
The
EMS emergency
that is correct because EMS
was not included yet.
Yeah, EMS is a separate tax district, and because it's almost $1 million tax levy that they're going to add to it. However, we already talked to them about whether they can scale back in their appropriations, but the reality is, and we're going to have another meeting with them before we actually finalize this month's budget. However, they really have been behind the 8 ball for the last number of years and been running off a deficit for so long But we're going to go over the particulars line by them as well, because they now fall under the town after our actions to include them so that they could have a taxing district. But their taxing district is going to fall under our 2% cap, so there's no way that we're going to meet our technical 2%. But their budget, their actual tax numbers for the residents were already discussed that it's an additional tax for EMS, and it's approximately $45 per 100,000. And it was either that or lose them completely. They literally would have got a bankrupt and we would have lost an EMS entirely. There was no way for them to function otherwise. There was no other source of income, no other way to do it. Now, so we're separating it out for now because these are the things that we can talk about and possibly change. Whereas that, we're going to sit down with them. We're going to go over the numbers one more time, but their numbers were conservative to begin with. So they will be put in afterwards when we do the final calculations for the state. So Nick, quick question. Why is it only that amount? 1 million seems kind of low because I didn't see, this is my first time seeing your final numbers for us. No, I understand that, but beyond that, we looked at the numbers just for the general fund and all the different funds earlier, and it was much higher. So why would there be, why was it down to 1 million? I mean, it's a good thing. I always like going lower, but no, you didn't. Okay, we'll go over it again later, but anyway, the point being, and we need to go over the numbers to make sure everything's included. So so it's well over $1 million that we got to find. So we're going back to the department heads. They're going to pull back their budgets again. So we're going to go and revisit. But just to, if you go to the next set, which is the charts, can you do that for me, please? Yeah, it's a different sheet. So we all have it in front of us. So it looks like, yeah. No, did you pull out the charts for me?
Yeah, overall.
Yeah, overall. Yeah, those ones, yeah. So we don't have it in front of us, right? Well, there's. Okay, so so which one are you showing? Nick? Nick? What are you showing? Are you doing, I know. Are those, so I'm looking at, these are just the fixed court? No, these are the overall. So this is general budget. So the general fund, if you're looking, so it breaks it down to different categories: salaries, retirement, employee benefits, and debt service, and FICA. Those are all fixed costs, and he's gonna separate that out in the different charts. Do you have the other charts available as well? It's okay. Just leave it like that for now. So this is the total overall numbers that we're looking at. So the equipment and departmental are the ones that you can work with. Retirement is a fixed cost, employee benefits, that's the health benefits, well, I guess just the health benefits. And then debt service obviously is a fixed cost if we have to pay our debts and pay off on the money that was borrowed previously. Salaries, and that is set on a 3% increase for across the board for everybody, union or not. And except for those of us who opted to freeze our salaries. And FICA is fixed as well. So above, so it's an increase of 857,000. That's a total cost. And then the highway fund is a separate, and that's about $500,000 over last year's. And then water and sewer, can you just go down just a little bit, please? Thank you. 606,000 and 412. So we're going to go back with Scott and talk about, we're going to, well, they're going to be talking, there's going to be discussion in the department meeting tomorrow. And then the water and sewer are separate and it's billed, but it goes into the 2% and it is part of the general budget. So therefore, it does count in our numbers. So we're going to go over that with Scott once again to see where we are. Did you pull the capitals out of that one yet, Nick? Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Thank you, Deborah. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so these are the fixed. So these are basics that we're over. So those are salaries, retirement, employee benefits, debt services, FICA. And then so it's 942. So if you see in the general fund, that I believe went down, and that's because one department actually decreased overall. And that's where we remove some of the capitals from there. And then highway, again, so these are individuals, these are all fixed costs that are not changeable. Shoot. Sorry. Mhm. Yep. Yep. So you go from the fixed and then we have to account for it, but the fixed cost total, do you have a total for the total fixed cost increase? It's like 1.3, right? Yeah, it's about 1.3 approximately. Okay. So it's about 1.3 in the fixed cost that can't be changed. And so it's kind of a no-win situation. Sorry, I'm just turning my finger off. 1.5. So those are in fixed costs. So we're going back to the department heads once again. And obviously, every municipality that we've spoken to have been faced with the same issues and the same problems, is that the fixed costs are going up tremendously, and those we can't change. So what we're doing is every department head is going to be looking at, they have been looking at, and they are thinking outside the box on what they can do to ensure that we can meet our goals, and our goals to be as minimally impactful on our residents as possible. But it's a tough thing. So we'll continue on. Now, everybody has agreed to come back in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Monday, highway and parks, we have not yet done, and we're going to be discussing on Monday. And we're having a meeting with the soon to be new head of highway and parks this tomorrow. Yes, thank you. It's been a long week. Tomorrow. So we're gonna have some discussions with him, go over and make sure he's all set and understands and make his own choices. And then we should have all the departments done by Monday. And then we should have our preliminary discussions on Monday as well about the overall things. Some things that we're going to be considering is, you know, we're going to see what our department heads also at that point by next Monday come back with in terms of numbers. And then we're going to put everything together and decide how we're going to fund everything. Okay. There is a possibility of going to fund balance, which is the reserves. And we have a solid reserve amount. And those are considerations. Each department head that is independent. So that would be highway is a separate taxing district. And also water and sewer is a direct bill. So because they're separate, they can handle, the way that they handle things are a little better, but and then we have to also, we're also going to be discussing the increase in the water sewer bills for those people that utilize it. So we're going to come back with that again. We can do all those tallies next week, or we can start on it today. What would you like? Robert? Do you want to go through any individual budgets? Everybody has their book in hand. And if you want to pull up your tablet, Nick emailed everybody things that they can follow through on.
Quick question on this chart. We just grabbed the three totals. They come up just over 1.5 million. So what this is telling me is that the fixed costs that we do not have control over because of increases of salaries, because of state requirements and such, is a $1.5 million increase from last year.
So you have salaries are based on.
Union contracts,
Say retirement.
state retirement, yep,
Calculation based off of
benefits.
salary times their actuarial reduction on factor value. Employee benefits. That service is also that we owe.
Now that we might have some control over because as we pay off our debt, hopefully that will drop going forward. Because that's what I'm trying to get in mind is, are we going to be looking at a 1.5 million increase every year going forward? Or is there something we can do about it? And about the only thing I see is to pay off the debts.
So can I just speak to that? So,
Sure.
yeah, so when you borrow with bonds, bands and then bonds, you're accumulating interest and accumulating debt, and that has to be paid off for a period of time. And that's extended out depending on what kind of debt, capital debt, whatever if it's a big piece of equipment, it might be over 20 years. So we have accrued debt from literally the last 20 years that we're still paying off. And we're doing it responsibly. There's a company that oversees it. They triple check everything. We are paying down on that. We are mandated to pay down on it, and they do it responsibly. That being said, we're looking to minimize bonding because of the interest rates going forward. So as we do less bonding, and not that we can't do bonding when we need to, but doing it sparingly, if at all possible. And so and that's what we were considering with the capitals. We had the capitals we pulled out from the rotation of equipments in IT already. And we're looking at funding other capitals in different ways, like from fund balance and things like that. So we're not accumulating the interest and the debt. So yes, gradually it will pay down. But at what rate? It depends on when the bonds come up over a period of time, depending on the debt that was accumulated in prior years. If it was a hard piece of equipment, it's up to 20 years, but there are things that go down to, I believe, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, like 3-year payoffs, right? Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Right. And in the past, when bonding was cheap and interest rates were very low, it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and understandably so. It was a reaction, we bond, because it doesn't cost us that much. It spreads over the payments, and it's not that much accrued interest. So it's almost worth it to do it. Whereas now, not so low, although the interest rate just went down, but not so low, and it is very, very expensive to bond. We manage, we do it, and if we have to do it, we do it. But if we can do it as sparingly as possible, yeah, eventually the debt payments will get better. For one example is highway. Last year, highway, bonded for a lot of things, and it comes out of the highway budget, which is a separate taxing district. And so their debt went down. Let me see, it went down from just over 300. Well, one specific part of the debt went down just over 300,000. Debt payments went over just under 300,000 from this year. Well, went down substantially, but then you added when you went, so they paid off, yeah, a lot of it. Well, a third of it maybe, whatever. Whatever, but a good amount of it. And then so you saw the reduction, and then because they bonded last year, that kicked in, and then it's back up again. And so the highway superintendent is in charge of that budget, and that budget, again, they have to fund those things, and their items are big ticket items. That truck last year cost $500,000. So in $500,000, they have to work their budget really carefully. Mhm. Also add, I want to give credit to our department heads because Deborah, um, they're thinking outside the box to try to save money for the town. So Deborah was researching, sorry, wrong word. Research, it's been a long week, sorry. Um, she was researching into doing bulk discounts for mailing, which saves money in that. So our department heads are doing that. So and that's a lot of research. She was doing it all day today to try to figure out what she can do and how, and does it meet the criteria for the postage that she's required to utilize to do. If it's first class postage, can we meet that criteria, that requirement, I should say, and get it at the discount rate? So Deborah's putting a lot of work into it, and Patrick and Kelsey and Dulcie in the recreation department have put a tremendous amount of work also into thinking about obtaining sponsors for events, because they do incredible stuff. And they just in the Monster Mash last Saturday, which was extremely fun, they did an amazing job. And there are certain, and so we were talking on the site of how cost effective it was. It was almost exclusively volunteers. He recruited volunteers from the schools and from Caltech, and uh, and so not Caltech, and thank you. Calvary Tabernacle. They said their t-shirts said Caltab. I'm sorry. Calvary Tabernacle. Thank you guys. By the way, thank you so much for being out there. So they were so amazing. Not only did they bring cider and donuts for everybody, they gave them out, and they manned all of the free games for all the kids. And they were just super positive, amazing, just an absolutely, and then the bouncy houses and everything. But in thinking outside the box, in order to ensure that we can maintain it and try to minimize the cost for all our residents, if we sponsor things like what they have to include in it, which is like the tent rental and the bouncy houses, if we can get sponsors for that, then that would defray the cost almost completely. And they were explaining to me, I did not realize they had so many games. It was amazing. So they pull out all the games and they keep in storage, and they do just an absolutely incredible job. But so everybody's thinking outside the box at alternatives, but those we can't include in the budget numbers. We're hoping to those out of the box thinking things will take off, and we're going to be able to do them. But we can't count on what we're going to be able to do or not. So, but if they do work and it does go well, and we hope our businesses will engage and help us, because we'll put up a nice sign for you. If they can help us out, then that means that next year we can include in the budget, if we have more expected revenue coming in, that we can say that, yes, we can have it. Listen, again, our department heads and our town employees are very enthusiastic about doing more things like Vestal, Front Street Day becoming Vestal Festival, a 2-day event. But in order to become a 2-day event, it's going to be a whole discussion about, can we get sponsors? Can we get fireworks? And can we do it? And so everybody's engaged, everybody's trying, everybody's doing a great job. And so again, we're going to ask them to pull back, but they've been absolutely fantastic. So, and they're thinking of all these different things that we can do. So it's a true cooperative effort. So
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
on these fixed costs, and some are coming from the state, if maybe we should be approaching our state legislatures and saying, we could use some help on this stuff.
We have them
Okay,
consistently.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Mhm. Mhm. Yep. Yeah, for next year, what next year we're hoping to do is we're gonna reorganize the budget completely. We can't do it for this year, obviously. We're gonna do two things, which is we're gonna roll in all the benefits and all the different real parts of the budget. Instead of being in these group categories, it's gonna be department, but also the revenue part too. Okay, and we're gonna have to look at the structure. We may have to do our own structure separately. That's a possibility. because I know, because like Patrick brings in revenue, and I know Deborah brings in revenue, and Code brings in revenue. And when they do, and you know, our department heads say we do bring in money. Is it the complete cost? No, but and they all revisit it because a lot of the fees have not been reconsidered in many, many years, some of them, incredibly long years. So nobody's looking to kill anybody in terms of fees and costs, but let's be a little realistic about them. And so they're revisiting, so not to hurt the average resident, but to ensure that the general revenue is going up. So the problem is it hasn't kicked in yet. So a lot of that just isn't going to show this year. But next year we're gonna try to reorganize it. So if nothing else, we can do our own version, even if not in the official budget, to say yes, clerk's department and revenue, and recreation and revenue, and code and revenue, and at least have a notation in there, or a couple of lines. We can, you know, even from the regular structure, I can just think we can add Excel lines and put revenue as a couple of lines in there to show that they bring in revenue as well. And they do. And code, when you get a big project, some of those fees are high. They could be like $100,000, but that is not common, and that cannot be counted on, especially with the cost of
Right.
construction.
Right.
So, but you know, again, they up the regular fees too much, but it's always a fine thing if you don't want to kill your residents with unnecessary stuff. But we do have to pay for stuff. So
And you did say
Mhm.
that we will Monday, you started looking at the highway, water and sewer, no budgets. So
So
we'll
yeah,
go over those
we're gonna
then.
give our department heads a chance
Right.
to, they're gonna do two things. They're gonna meet, um, giving everybody given the numbers once again and say, still not there, thank you. But have them revisit it once again. But they're gonna be coming in for individual consultations
Okay,
too, with
good.
Sue and myself, and sit down and go over their individual budgets. So so that when there's issues or problems, or asking questions or whatever,
Mhm.
you know, some of the departments are gonna have a harder time than others.
And
So
can you or Sue tell me what the safety inspection category is?
that's code.
That's code?
That's code.
Buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So as far as from my perspective, the only thing we wouldn't be touching that I've heard yet is police. And I looked through their sheets and
Mhm.
that all looks pretty good. I just didn't know if we wanted to go over it so that we could have it on the recording or not. But their budget looks really
Well,
nice.
he did the PowerPoint, so it is on the recording.
Okay.
So he went over his own budget,
Okay.
and the whole budget's going to be public and everything anyway,
Sweet.
and before our public hearing. So everybody's going to have it in front of them if they want to, literally beforehand.
Okay.
But he did a spectacular job with the budget. I think it was a 0.4 increase. Given the number of personnel,
That was the one we didn't have video for, right? He was like the first one to do
well,
it.
I think I don't know if we had full video, but we had audio for it.
Yeah, we had audio for it.
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm not sure what showed up. We should check to see what showed up on the
Yeah,
video.
yeah, that'd be good.
It went to, I think it stopped when we tried to switch back from the slideshow
Yeah.
to the
something-
thing, but it was
Oh,
still
yeah.
recording for the
Glitched out.
audio. So we got the audio for the rest of it.
So
Um,
looks like we'll be covering it as far as I'm concerned. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, yeah, and tomorrow's going to be the department head meetings, and you know, we're gonna tell them again, give them their best shot, and tell them the realities and what we're gonna ask of them, and then we'll see what they come. But in the meantime, we still have Thursday, Friday, and Monday during the day for them, each of them to individually to talk again. But I want to tell you, for the first time, the department heads have been fully in control of their budget, and they've done an amazing job. They really are. I mean, I know that they always could have, but it was much more because they know their department better than any of us looking at it. Because it's so funny, you see a line on a sheet, and I'm sure residents see the same thing, and we're going to try to describe things better this year in the public version of it. But when you see a line, and for me, I'm like, I don't understand. And when they explain it, it's like, oh, yeah. And you see what the priority is, and you see why it has to be that way. So, so it's really good to have that explanation. And so part of the reason, so I'm going to be working on, and I'll have ready And I'm going to check with each department head before we put anything public, but we're going to have descriptions of some of those things. So like when you get a salary of $1.5 million for a category, it's how many personnel are involved in that. The biggest example is highway, that's a mobilization right there, is that you have a tremendous number of people in highway and you need them. But to make it clearer, I think everybody understands about costs. And unfortunately, I'm gonna tell them what's fixed and what's not, but they just want to know what they want to understand it, and they want to understand why. And what it is and why it's going up. So we don't sometimes have the why it goes if it's a fixed cost, but we'll try to do a better job to explain, and then in the public hearing, and then via email, everybody can have their questions answered as well. So Robert, did you have anything? Yeah, we're just gonna go back to department heads once again, and it's the hard, the numbers are hard, but all of you have in your emails what we have so far in terms of the budget. So you can go over it and read it much more thoroughly. And that was not just department by department, but you also have it in your email that you can skim through different categories a little bit easier. So some people, I'm a hard copy kind of person, but there are some people that much more comfortable in the email, or you can make notes on it or whatever. So then you can bring that back, and obviously could bring that back to Monday's meeting as well, and we can go over individual things or via email or whatever. Okay.
Do we have a chance of having the updated stuff late this week?
Whatever we have, we can get to you by Friday. But
Okay, that'll make it
just
easier to look over.
just be
the weekend.
forewarned, some departments may not be ready by Friday. So we'll ask when they're ready to send it in, but it may be Monday.
Well, in that case, it's just which ones weren't updated, so you can just focus on the ones that were.
Correct. Okay. Okay, so Nick, we can do that. Okay, great. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Thank you, and seconded.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And we're adjourned for the budget meeting. Thank you.